And welcome back. This is it, folks. This is our last video to the entire series. So what we want to do within this video is really just kind of summarize everything that we've learned. I've been writing down a few of my own questions because actually I'm going to be moving forward with IUL. I just have a few last questions, and what we've actually been doing is collecting some of your questions as well. So we're going to read them out here, and we've invited back the whole entire crew. We've got Kevin Newber, Jordan Arias, and Brian Mandershot. Thank you all for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Kevin, if you don't mind, if you could start this off with me. Out of all of these videos, why haven't I heard of IUL before being used as some type of wealth building strategy?
Sure, you've watched these videos for maybe 3 hours now, and we've talked nothing but IUL. And so how come people haven't really heard about IUL? And I think you just need to go back to that first video that we shot where we talked about how IUL and these types of strategies that we're talking about, these are for people who have a very specific problem, and that is that they pay too much taxes. And so for people to pay too much taxes, that's a small segment of the population. So maybe only the top 10 or 25% of the people in the United States fit into this category. And so all the financial institutions out there and the financial advisors and the people on radio and TV, what they're doing is they're marketing to people that have other types of problems, like they need to pay off their home, pay off their car, so on and so forth. Taxes is not one of the issues that they have. And so this is a popular strategy for people to have this issue. It's just not something that you see as a mass-marketed financial product.
Jordan, if we could do the next question for you.
Yeah.
We've talked about the characteristics of wealth accumulation vehicles. We've talked about IUL, of max funding that account. And you even spoke specifically in one of the videos about leveraging that account to actually be able to save and also spend your money wisely within that account. So what exactly can we use IUL for?
For the purpose of these videos, we've really been looking at IUL as our retirement plan, or a portion of our retirement planning. But the fact of the matter is we can use our overfunded life insurance contract in many different facets, whether it's a young family planning for their children's college, or whether it's someone that is just saving money because they want to maybe save for a vacation or purchase a car. Really what you're giving yourself the opportunity to essentially create your own bank, where you can use that money at any point in time to purchase major capital purchases. And one of the nice things, the reason why we can do that is if we look back to that wealth accumulation page where we had the yellows and the greens and the reds, really the biggest driving factor for our life insurance, our overfunded life insurance, is the fact that we can access it at any point in time. We do not have to wait till we're 59 and a half, or we don't have to wait for a certain amount of time or else we'll receive penalties.
And this is tax-free income we're talking about. So we could use this for retirement, the college tuition, like you said, vacations. If I wanted to go on a vacation, I could use that.
Absolutely. You're really creating your own bank in essence by doing this. And when you're taking that money out, you're taking it on a tax-free basis. So you don't have to wait till you hit those retirement years in order to take out tax-free income. You could actually take it out at any point in time, just like you said.
Brian, let's have the next question go to you, since I was actually watching a few of your videos that you've done. Somebody wrote in here, can you go into the biggest retirement risks again and tell me why IUL is the preferred vehicle among the wealthy?
Definitely great questions to ask, and I think it makes sense to go back to our story or case study about Richard and Grace Turner. And when we look at their financial situation, and probably a lot similar to many viewers at home, the three major risks we talked about: 1, longevity risk; 2, tax risk; and 3, stock market volatility. And just to kind of recap those again, longevity risk, believe it or not, my grandmother, she's turning 102 years old in October, so people are definitely living longer, and it's important that our money lasts throughout the rest of our life. Tax risk, we all know that it's a high probability tax rates are likely to go up. All these government entitlement programs, $19 trillion in debt, there's a very high probability that tax rates are going to go up. And lastly, stock market volatility. We've been through quite a roller coaster over the last 15 years or so, with big drops and some rebounds. But those are really the three biggest risks. And the way IUL fits in this whole equation is we could help mitigate against those risks. First being longevity risk. When you're properly funding an IUL, the money isn't going to run out, and it's going to last your lifetime. Two, tax risk. Once you put the money in, you're essentially creating a tax bunker where those dollars are never going to be taxed in the future, both on the growth, the distribution, and actually also the transfer as well. And then lastly, as far as the stock market volatility, the nice thing about the IUL is we participate in the upside performance of the market when it's good. But when the stock market goes down, we don't participate in any of the losses. And I think those are really the biggest fundamentals of the IUL and why it fits into the three biggest risks of retirement.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Now let's just open this up to anybody. Somebody wrote in here, one of the questions was, I already have an advisor who's helped me with mutual funds. Is he able to help me with IUL?
I'll get this one.
Yeah.
The answer I have to that is that you mentioned mutual funds, and so that's what stood out to me is the word mutual funds, which is why I want to answer the question. And when I hear the word mutual fund, I think about a product. It's just one of the many products that are out there. And that type of product fits into one of the three buckets that we talked about in one of the previous videos. So we talked about the three buckets of money, the taxable money, the tax-deferred money, and then the tax-free money. And there's people out there, advisors, for example, that are experts at particular types of product and particular types of buckets. And that your advisor, or the viewer's advisor, might be an expert at that type of product. But when it comes to a maximum funded life insurance contract, the viewers, if you watch all of these videos, you actually know more than 95% of the advisors out there or the agents that are setting these life insurance policies up. So the chances are is that your advisor probably doesn't know how to do one of these properly. So what I would challenge everybody to do is to seek somebody who has been through the proper training and has the proper knowledge in order to set one of these up.
Kevin made a really good point in regards to those three buckets that we have. And really, if someone's focused on one particular bucket, let's say that mutual fund bucket, one of the things that we always need to ask ourselves, and really this is what we do since we're bipartisan essentially, is that why is your advisor pushing that particular bucket so much? If you're not diversified amongst those three buckets, then ask yourself why. Why is there a reason that this bucket has not been talked about at all? And so getting that second opinion, getting someone that has experience in maybe other buckets is why you would want to seek outside advice as well.
All right, great. All right, the next question. With IUL being a fairly new product in the marketplace when you compare it to others, has it really been tested?
I'll grab that one if you don't mind, guys. Believe it or not, IUL is actually about to hit its 20th year anniversary, so it's not a new fad product. It's actually time-tested, and it's been around for quite a while. And more importantly, IUL has followed a long lineage of life insurance policies really to get us where we are today, and really addressed all the previous issues that all the older policies had, and really improved upon that design. Just to kind of go through them, whole life, the lack of flexibility and disclosure, the UL, universal life, the tie to the fixed interest rates, which have been declining quite a bit over the last 30 years, and VUL, the stock market volatility. So really IUL has learned from the predecessor products and really has gotten where it is today.
For the viewers at home, if they wanted to act now, which they should all be doing, why now compared to, let's say, if they're thinking about, I'll do it in a few months right now, school's coming up, why can't I do it 5 years from now, or whatever it may be?
We get that question all the time, and what I usually say to that is that we've looked at how we're in historically low tax rates right now. So we've looked at the history of taxes. We're in historically low tax rates, and we have over $18 trillion, almost $19 trillion in federal deficit. So taxes are going to go up in the future. And there's a gentleman by the name of David Walker. He was the head of the Government Accountability Office for 10 years under two different administrations. Think of him as like the CPA for the federal government. And what he says is that the federal government is going to have to either double taxes or decrease spending by 50% or some combination thereof. So what I would say as an answer to the viewer is that if you're around in 5 or 10 years into the future, or maybe even longer, and taxes do double, are you going to look back to today and wish that you had put more of your money into that tax-free bucket? And if the answer is yes, then it's never too late in order to implement one of these plans.
The other thing that we have to consider too is we are using that tax-free bucket and we are using life insurance, and one of the things that we have to do is we have to apply for life insurance, and the company has to accept us based off of our health. And so if we postpone that, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know, unfortunately, what our health is going to be like years down the road. And so if you get into a position where you want insurance, you want to move forward with these plans, and you procrastinate, and then something happens, and now you don't have the ability to, even it doesn't matter how much you want to. And unfortunately, we've seen that. We've seen applications come through where it's too late. They're uninsurable moving forward.
So how do they get started? What's the first step that they need to do?
Yeah, the first step is really filling out your wealth assessment packet, is completing that. And really, that's going to get the ball rolling. And think of it as this is your review. This is the time to get that second opinion from that advisor. And really the worst that can happen is they're going to tell you that everything's working well.
All right, well, I think that basically wraps it up here. What I'd like to do right now with really just concluding this whole entire video series is just kind of give us all your final thoughts. If we could just kind of go in a row right here. Brian, if you don't mind starting.
Sure, thanks, Dan. So I think, we gave a lot of information in the past videos and here today. And I think you could probably tell that we're very passionate about wealth accumulation and Index Universal Life. But I think a really big important thing that I want to mention is all of us, and you here shortly, Dan, are IUL owners. This is something that we've decided to do with our own money and recommend to close family members and friends. And I can think of many occasions where I benefited from having an Index Universal Life policy personally, one of which times was in the recent past where my wife and I, we bought a home, and without the IUL policy, I wouldn't have been able to cover the down payment. I was able to call the insurance company and get the money I needed, and in a few days, the money was wired straight to my account. I wired to escrow account, and I was able to buy the house I currently live in today. Without the IUL, that wouldn't have been able to happen.
Yeah, and I would say for me, really the point that drives me home and why I do what I do is that I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know what's going to happen to me individually, but what I do know is that I've protected my family. I have a 2-year-old son at home, and I have a wife at home. And for me, it's so important to know that if something did happen to me, that they're taken care of, that I've spread money across those 3 different buckets, that we've planned in the case of an emergency or in the case of something happens to me. And so we look at it from a retirement perspective, but at the end of the day, it is life insurance. And for me to know that my family is taken care of in case something did happen to me is more than anything out there.
And for me, I would say that I think back to the story about my parents and how they made a couple big mistakes during retirement. The 2 big mistakes that they made, or prior to retirement, first was that they had all of their money in one bucket, and so they were exposed to too much risk. And when the market crashed in 2008, thankfully we did something prior to that, but that could have drastically changed how much money they have today. The second thing that they did is they were the kind of do-it-yourself type people who thought that they could research it on their own and find out the information and pick the things, the investments that they needed to have. And that proved to be a bad decision for them because it wasn't until someone was able to help them to put their money into the different buckets that they were able to protect themselves from and mitigate against these risks in the future.
For myself, what I'd like to do is for everybody at home to just kind of think of where you are today. How does it look like? Where do you live right now? What kind of car are you driving? Now, think out to maybe 10, 20, maybe 30 or even 40 years from now. Where do you want to be? How does that look like? Does that compare with where you are today? Are you comfortable with the amount of income that you're getting during retirement to have a comfortable lifestyle? Well, what I want you all to do, I urge you to fill out this wealth assessment form. And actually, I even started it right now. I'll be submitting it to you guys after we get done with these videos here. That I urge you to scroll down right now, download that wealth assessment form. Like Jordan was saying, it's no obligation. What you're getting is merely just a second opinion from your financial advisor. And the worst that could happen is they'll tell you, you're doing what you should be doing, and you could have that confidence and peace of mind going into retirement. And really, that's what it's all about. I hope you've enjoyed these educational videos. And at the end of the day, these videos they're just videos. That's all they are. And you're not going to be able to build the type of wealth that you want to unless you take action. So start today, download that wealth assessment form, and take it out to your financial advisor. So from all of us here, we'd like to thank you very much for attending this educational video series entitled Uncover the Proven Strategies Used by the Wealthy. Thank you.